This show is part of the RetroZap.com podcast network.
Previously on Starships, Sabers, and Scoundrels, or previously on Starships, Sabers, and Scoundrels.
Since we are on the road to Solo, we promised to look back at some classic Solo stories, and this week we get it started with Solo at Star's End by Brian Daley.
Hey, it's me.
Like a Wookiee companion who forsakes his family to fulfill a life debt for reasons yet unknown, or like a bounty hunter who has been tracking you across the whole galaxy to bring you carbon-frozen Java. We're Han Solo.
It's going to be a long trip.
Bollocks.
Hello, Scoundrels. The road to Solo continues, and this is what is coming up on this week's show. Remember those cool Solo character posters? Well, they might not have been an original idea. We'll discuss this and more in this week's news. Need some Star Wars fashion and lifestyle product advice? You're in luck, because Jay has another edition of That's So Wizard. Speaking of Jay, to celebrate our golden episode, she has concocted a game about the most renowned protocol droid in the galaxy. In this week's hypothetical, Scott Murray from the Assembly of Geeks podcast network joins us on the road to Solo as we talk Lando and Chewbacca. Finally, we finish up this episode with listener feedback and community news and Silence Fools. This is a packed episode, Scoundrels, so let's not waste any more time and get to it. Thanks for joining us for episode 50 of Starships, Sabers, and Scoundrels.
So, how's it feel, Dennis?
How's what feel, Taxus?
Well, you know, to be Jay's sidekick.
Dennis isn't my sidekick.
Ooh, tough break, Dennis. Man, disappointing. I already had your costume all made up.
That's a Chewbacca robe.
Yeah, looks comfy, huh? But I digress. You know, I didn't know Chewie could read mind.
Read minds?
Yeah, like the people on the Sidekick Friends Network. You know, I've been known to dabble a little bit in that too. In fact, I have a prediction.
I'm going to regret asking, but okay, let's hear it.
The spirits are telling me that the show is starting soon. Holy salutations, little scoundrels! You've returned to the podcast that is crammed into a long-running, successful, and fan-loved TV show in a sad attempt to breathe new life into the series. I'm your co-host and walking embodiment of self-fulfilling prophecy,
Darth Taxus.
coming to you from the passenger seat of my flagship, the Assessor Collector. And with me are your other co-hosts who know the ancient kung fu secret to block any kicks, be they side or otherwise. Dennis, the Phantom Menace Keithley, and Jay, the Hut Jair Krebs. Dennis and Jay.
Hey, Dennis. Hey, Taxus. I'm still getting over the Sidekick Friends Network. I love that. And sidekicks are us tonight, so it's perfect. I'm ready to jump right in.
Yeah, I wish I was there on the Assessor Collector. Since he's in the passenger seat, I could steer this thing.
Ooh.
No, I think Commander Jesus is sitting over there right now. I'm just saying.
Yeah, he's afraid of me, or so I've heard. Anyway. Hey, before we get into the show, have either of you had a chance to pick up the Last Jedi novelization yet?
Well, I just realized today that it was on my Audible. I had pre-ordered it, a while ago. And then I saw all these tweets on Twitter. Obviously, that's where tweets are. And I thought, oh, people are reading this. Oh, wait. I have this. So all of a sudden, I went over to Audible and I saw it was there. And I got to listen to a little bit of it this evening. But that's about as far as I've gotten.
Books are lame. Movies are where it's at, man.
Whoa.
All right. Well, I am 200 pages into it simply because I cannot put this thing down.
Wow.
In my opinion, this is the best novelization of one of the movies so far. Jason Fry has done a fantastic job with this. The first 20 pages of the book, and more than that actually, are not in the movie at all. There's been, they're calling this the expanded edition. There's plenty of added material. It's interesting. I wondered, I'm not going to spoil anything, but I found that the Canto Bight scenes in the novel were far more satisfying than those scenes in the movie. And I'm trying to put my finger on why exactly that is, but it's been an incredibly enjoyable way to experience this book or the movie again. So I highly recommend that one. With that aside, something else I wanted to just real quick, because this just came up today. We're recording on March 7th, but the Star Wars show had a deleted scene from The Last Jedi.
Oh, yeah.
And we've all had a chance to watch this now. And so, Scoundrels, if you haven't seen it, give yourself put this on pause, go take about 2 minutes, just fast forward to the lead scene in the Star Wars show on YouTube and come back to this. Yeah, good. You're back. So this is a different version of the showdown between Finn and Phasma on the Supremacy. And we were talking a bit about this offline. And Jay, break it down for us real quick.
Oh, it's so good. It's just, it gives you all of the feeling from the novelization. And I know that both of you have read the comics as well. And there's just been so much buzz on social media about this, and everyone's saying, why wasn't this in the movie? Why didn't we get to see this? Because it's a true characterization of what Phasma is really like. You get that feeling for who she really was. And I just loved it. Can't wait to see the rest of these deleted scenes.
Yeah. Taxus, what did you think?
Well, having been a fast draw gunslinger myself, I'm just kind of questioning the I guess the shots of her shots, and whether they were looking at that in retrospective and just saying, does that seem kind of unnatural and awkward to you? The way she did it, the way they shot it, it's like she's holding the thing in her right hand, the blaster. I'm sorry. And when she's shooting, it's like, I don't know. I just have to go back and look at the camera angles and kind of see if it makes sense to me in my brain head. Does that make sense?
Sure. And we haven't actually described the scene. And even though we told the Scoundrels to go out and see it, I'm going to do that real quick. But instead of Finn fighting with Phasma for a bit and then smacking her off through a hole through the bottom of the ship after Holdo rams the Radis through the Supremacy, they come through I knew you were going to say that. They're having this fight, and then it gets interrupted. Phasma insults Finn some, and then Finn comes back and points out that, when I put a gun to your head, you're the one that turned off the shields on Starkiller Base, and what would your men do if you did that? And the stormtroopers that are gathered around them all kind of trade sideways looks at each other, and Phasma then pulls out a blaster and shoots all of them, and then Finn and Phasma finish off their duel, and he puts the beat down on her. The reason why Jay, you were alluding to the novelization. I think what you actually meant was the Phasma novel. Yes. But I can't help but think that Delilah Dawson, who wrote the novel, and Kelly Thompson, who wrote the comic, I hope that they were given access to that. Yeah. Or maybe they weren't, but I feel like they had to be given the script that talked about that, or at least her parts of the movie, because this just ties in so well to that. This whole, what you're alluding to, Jay, the survival mentality that Phasma has, that no one gets to know her identity. No one gets to know that she does whatever it takes to survive. And if that means that certain people in the First Order have to die, then certain people in the First Order have to die. And to address your point, Taxus, about the angles, something tells me if they really wanted to include this version of the scene in the movie and those angles weren't working, they could have done that in pickups or reshoots or something like that. I feel like they just had to have made that decision at some point during their editing process that it just needed to go because for time's sake or whatever. But, maybe Rian Johnson will address that in the director's commentary on the Blu-ray. But
or they just want to make sure she had the potential to survive into the next episode, So because
I guess there's that. But regardless, three final points. If you haven't done so, go to YouTube, check out the Star Wars show, and watch this deleted scene. Read the Captain Phasma comic written by Kelly Thompson, and read the novel Phasma by Delilah S. Dawson.
Yeah, it's really
let's get on to our news. It's been a little quiet as far as Star Wars announcements go, but there are a few things to address. So, Jay, what is up first?
Well, we have a little bit of scandal to start out with. Yeah. Remember those cool solo character posters featuring Han, Kira, Lando, and Chewbacca? Well, artist Hakeem Bayhouse has made a fairly convincing argument that his designs for album covers for Sony Music France were appropriated without any acknowledgement or compensation. On his Facebook page, Bayhouse put the images for the solo posters side by side with the album covers and stated, quote, "I am flattered that the quality of my work is recognized, but it is still pure and simple forgery. I have not been asked for permission. I wish to be credited and paid for this work I have done for Sony," end quote. So, now these are the, just a little background. These are the legacy of funk, jazz, electronic funk, and soul covers that were originally released in 2015.
Okay.
So it's the same image within a Word format with the 4 different colors. It's
Well,
you can Google this and you can see the 2 images side by side, and
that was a big buzz.
It's glaring.
Well, but maybe he should take a little dose of his own medicine and not take somebody else's property and merge it with his own and then put it out there. Just saying.
You lost
when
me
did
there.
he do that?
Well, he took the Star Wars images and, reproduced them after merging with his. So, I mean, come on. Physician, heal thyself. Just saying.
I think he had a point, though, to make, which is if you're not, don't take his word for it. You can do the analysis yourself. Those images are all over the internet. If you just Google Star Wars solo poster, you'll find countless examples. It was put on a Facebook page, and I don't think it's there on his Facebook page anymore, but the argument's out there. Minor quibble with his use of the word forgery. I think, I say that he's French. English is not his first word, so a little bit of imprecise use of the language there, but he's got a point. My understanding is this was work for hire done for Sony France, and it's entirely possible that Sony and Lucasfilm or Disney came to an agreement on this, but Disney's responded that the posters were created by an outside vendor and they're looking into the situation. So Disney hired someone to make the posters. This is what they came back with.
Okay. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
In all seriousness, okay, so where does copyright law technically stop? Is it water's edge, or, do we have this universal world copyright law?
Well, it's a little difficult to say. I don't practice international law, and I am not up on French law. However,
we call it freedom law, by the way, over here in the States.
Certainly, but there are, at least with respect to patents, certain countries have treaties,
reciprocity kind of stuff,
and alliances and things like that will say, if as far as a patent goes, you infringe it there, you infringe it here, or we'll honor your patents and things like that.
Right.
Whereas some of the Asian countries don't have that same type of agreement. I don't know to the extent that works with copyright. That being said, I really don't know, and I hesitate to utter an opinions on that, other than it, regardless of the legality of it, it's just not an ethical thing to do.
And
you don't just steal someone's work and don't credit it for them. I mean, you can be influenced with it. It's one thing to be inspired, and I've seen a lot of artists on Twitter say this. We all are inspired by what people do. The three of us as podcasters have been inspired by other podcasters and the way that they do things, but we don't blatantly copy them without giving them acknowledgement for what it is they do. And this is, to my eye, why did we include this in the show? Because we made I'll tell you why. We made such a big deal about how cool these posters were a few weeks ago. And
plus we're smart.
And it stinks that the guy who had this idea wasn't getting credit for it.
Okay.
We tried to run on the positive side of things here, but I just felt like, at least we can do the right thing. If everything's on the up and up and there hasn't been anything to suggest that it's not with his claim, then he deserves some sort of acknowledgement.
All right, so just saying. Okay, so yeah, it is blaring. Okay, and given the age of social media and immediate retweets and stuff, and I will say that I'm guilty of that. Because I'm the one that kind of saw it on somebody's site and was like, "Whoa, holy crap! Look at this!" To on the RetroZap channel. And also, as somebody that blatantly rips other people off, I'm just saying unapologetically, I have to say, we don't know the details behind the agreements with Sony France and this artist. I mean, it could be, just saying, throwing this out, maybe there was an agreement that said, hey, thank you for making this for us, but you have to understand, by us paying you for this, it becomes our property. And then, ergo thus, maybe there was another agreement, again, in the dark recesses of corporate legal activity, right, that said, hey, we understand these images you did. We would love to make an homage for them. And maybe there's something that happened behind the scenes. And what I'm saying is that this artist might be hurt a little bit by it, but maybe there's something completely legal that happened that he's not privy to.
I understand what you're saying, and I've made that very same point to somebody else in the past.
Yes.
And here's my response to that. Look at what Disney's response is. They're looking into it. If that was the case, that's all they had to say.
That just means they haven't found the right attorney that signed the agreement.
No, it's you know, the thing is that, like, in all likelihood, Sony France would have let this artist know that this is what was going to happen, or they would have stepped in, but there hasn't been any other statement to that effect. Yes, this is all entirely possible, but if this is the case, someone could take the 15 seconds, put into a tweet on Twitter what you just said, and that would resolve the situation. So I don't know. It's the
there's a lot behind there.
Skeptical of these type of claims, but the fact of the matter is, this is a situation that's so easily resolved that if it is as innocent as what you're suggesting there with that hypothetical, then, you know, why not clear up the situation? Why let this linger? This is not a good look to have it out there. You know, you are a company that's devoted to creativity, and now it appears that you've stolen someone's idea without giving due compensation for it. You know, why would you let that impression stand?
Yeah, that's a good point.
If you could so easily clear it up. But
well, I've heard he contacted the offices of UT&E and Associate for representation, so we'll see what happens. Okay,
I hope he gets the just desserts. But what else we got going on in the news, Taxus?
Well, other things in the news are we just had another Academy Award ceremony, and it's come and gone, and once again, Star Wars came up empty-handed. Yeah, it hurts to miss that one, though. Although nominated for 4 categories for achievement in visual effects, music written for motion pictures, sound editing, and sound mixing, it failed to win any of the awards. And, well, frankly, I don't know. I've given up caring about the Academy Awards personally. It just seems like there's so many movies there that I'm never going to see that somebody who their entire life is watching movies is like, oh, this was so profound. This was a very important movie, and here's why. It's because in this scene on minute 34, 10 seconds, it was shot using a slight... if it doesn't entertain me, it doesn't entertain me. There's a lot of old movies out there, and even recent ones, that won the Academy Award, or at least were nominated, that had halfway of a decent interest in, right? Including, I'm just going to say, La La Land. All right, that was a wonderful movie, even though it really ticked me off at the end. And they know what they did.
I haven't seen it.
You should.
Well, look, the Oscars, BAFTA Awards, Gold Globes, whatever. I don't see all those movies. To your point, I don't see all of them. But that doesn't mean that these awards necessarily should go to the biggest box office winners out there.
But they kind of used to.
What's that?
They kind of used to, though. I mean,
well, we also have far movies coming out nowadays than we did when the Academy was founded and these awards started coming out. The point being is that, whoever the box office champ, that's an award into itself. They don't need a gold statue to commemorate that. It is just brought this up simply because, it's interesting to me that arguably the largest movie franchise of all time, which is got a company behind it that is responsible for a vast majority of the special effects that we've come to get used to in movies, is not winning the awards for putting this stuff out anymore.
But I think that's the problem, though, is I read an article of the Hollywood Reporter that one of the Oscar voters was discussing some of their thoughts on Star Wars. And they said, one, they weren't really a big Star Wars fan to begin with. And two, they're a little bored. I can't believe they said this. They're a little bored with the whole John Williams being nominated for Best Soundtrack thing. And which is stupid to us. I'm just saying.
Sure. That in itself is a problem.
Yeah.
If, these awards are, of course, all subjective. And if someone has got an axe to grind and they cannot be objectively subjective, if there is such a thing, or if they can't let their own biases against or for somebody come in, they can't set those aside, then perhaps they shouldn't be a voter if they can't give someone a fair shake. That being said, come on, Alexander Desplat is not a slouch composer.
No, not at all.
I didn't see that movie, so I couldn't tell you anything about the music. I'll be honest, the Last Jedi score, as much as I enjoyed it, I'm not convinced that it deserved the Oscar this time around.
I hate to say this, but I still haven't gone back and listened to it since I bought it.
Well, I've listened to it several times, but I found it to be, a lot of people are not going to like this, but I didn't feel like there was enough there to distinguish it from The Force Awakens soundtrack.
Interesting. Yes.
And so I'm not certain, for that alone, I wasn't sure that it deserved, if The Force Awakens didn't win, I'm not sure why this should have. So there's my take on that.
Yeah.
Jay, what did you think?
Well, just like you, Dennis, the whole Oscar thing is all subjective. So whoever you have in there that's voting is going to vote, based upon and like you said, you want them to be objectively subjective. Does that always happen? Of course not. And, the whole idea of what you said, Taxus, with John being so tired of John Williams getting nominated all the time.
Right.
Well, if you're good, you're good. That's why you get nominated.
Dang
but
straight.
in the end, I don't really think it matters that much because, Star Wars is an entity that no matter how many quote unquote awards it wins, it's going to stand the test of time. You know what I'm saying?
That's exactly right.
How
many of these movies that won Oscars are we going to be talking about in 10 years?
Exactly.
Right. Star
it's
Wars.
Nice to be recognized by your peers. I get that. I've always said that even the prequel trilogy should have had numerous awards for costume design, but it didn't. So, it is what it is. And you just, at the end of the day, you just have to know that you did a great job and people appreciated it and you move on creatively.
Yeah.
And there's not much you can do about it.
Yeah. Right. I don't know about the shape of meh-ter, but at least for our Scoundrels Oscars, they won in all 4 categories. Just saying.
Absolutely.
Bam.
Well, the Saturn Awards will be coming up soon, and I guarantee you The Last Jedi will probably do pretty well with them.
Those are the space people's Oscars.
Well, I would also recommend our fellow Retro Zappers, the Deucecast Movie Show, and the Deucies. They usually have a pretty good take on what was good and have some pretty good reasons why as well.
Love that show so much.
Yeah, that'll be coming out soon. Okay, well, that's our brief look at the news for this week. Like I said, it was light. For more Star Wars news, check out such sites as RetroZap, Fantha Treks, Jedi News, TheForce.net, and Coffee with Kenobi.
This is so wizard.
You feeling me, Hunter's Wizard? Oh, I was just stepping to you, girl, with my intellectual wizard politics.
I am an enchanter.
Wizards only. Fools.
Wizards rule.
There are some who call me Tim.
Greetings, Tim the Enchanter.
Nope, wizards only. Wizards only, fools.
Welcome back to That's So Wizard, a monthly rundown of Star Wars fashion and product news from all corners of the galaxy. This focus is not just for the female persuasion. I've scoured the hyperspace lanes to find something for all walks of life. So sit back, grab your wallets, and get your add to cart fingers ready to go. This week, you might have to also grab your savings account. So in addition to some of the great products I've found for you, I've also gathered a few of my personal favorite C-3PO items to share, this being our golden episode. So let's jump right in. So first up, with tax season at hand, how would you like to be able to sit at your desk in Emperor Palpatine's chair to figure out your return?
Well, I would say that 1 out of 1 tax accountants on the show would love that.
And there you have it, folks. So this was actually recently featured on sites such as Panthatrax and Nerdist. And this is a chair that was inspired by Palpatine's black and purple throne seat, which of course we know is featured prominently in Return of the Jedi. And it is a luxuriously upholstered chair, which boasts to be the perfect office accent for any super fan. So it sits on a chrome base that swivels, so you can spin to face any steadfast ally or rebellious enemy. And it is made in the U.S., ships in about 8 to 10 weeks, and it runs only $1,500, $14.99.
I'll get
kind
two.
Of a steep price, but you know,
it is a
if you're really
deductible expense.
into it. Yeah. So it's put out by Regal Robot, and Regal Robot actually has a lot of custom studio products. They specialize in furniture, art, decor, specifically Star Wars, but they also have nostalgia, space-themed objects, designs. They also accept commissions. So if you have something really special in mind, they can do that for you for a price. So if you really like the Palpatine chair, you got to be sure to check out their other Star Wars decor, including a Han and Carbonite desk, which is $9,999.
I'm going to pass on that. Yep.
And a replica of the Millennium Falcon in the asteroid field and coffee table form for $6,449. Dennis, what were you going to say?
Well, I may not be willing to do yoga on top of Han Solo, but that desk, I might be willing to do my work on top of it.
Do a couple of briefs,
sweet.
you know.
Yeah, so y'all will have to check out the notes, the show notes for all of the links and things to these, because they do have everything on site. And right now they have a special 20% off of all their new Star Wars items. So you use the code NEWFORCE20. So that's New Force and then the number 20. And this was available starting March 1st. So this chair would only cost you around $1,200.
That's great.
On shipping and handling.
Quick question. Does it come installed with a trapdoor button, or would I have to have that modded?
That would probably be a commission.
Okay.
Yeah,
good.
that's not that's not one of the things that comes with
And if you're going to do
so.
the trap door, you might as well have Jabba's throne platform and get the Rancor pit to go with it, Taxus.
Yeah.
I think I like that. I think that will fit in my office. So.
Speaking of trap doors, now you got me thinking about a little bit of Sweeney Todd with a trap door and his barber chair.
Yeah.
Anywho,
Yeah.
you know, that's my favorite Halloween movie. But Regal Robot also has a lot of bistro tables and director's chairs available right now too, which are really cool. So you can check those out at their website. And those are anywhere from the tables are around $299 and the chairs are from about $120 to $160. So they're like cafe tables. They're about 27 inches in diameter across the top. And if you get them in a 42-inch pub height or a 30-inch standard table height, you have your choice. And the standard table height, actually, they advertise works great with our director's chairs. So, yeah, so they have a $65 per table continental U.S. shipping flat rate. So again, they have a bunch of different designs. They have everything from Boba Fett to the Death Star to the Imperial logo, the Rebel logo.
Yeah, I like the targeting, the scene from where the Death Star was going around the planet Yavin, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
The countdown display.
Yeah, that's cool.
Type thing. Yeah. And then they have a hollow chest, which is awesome.
Yep.
So, yeah, so check out Regal Robot for all of your tables and decor and director's chairs.
Awesome.
Very cool. So moving on to Muster Brand, one of my personal favorites. They've released a new spring line of Star Wars fashion items for both men and women. And they even have a ladies swimsuit line slated to be released later this year. So that's really exciting. So really quickly, they have a whole bunch of stuff on their website. So go to musterbrand.com. But some of the newer styles include, there's a ladies Alliance sweater for pre-order right now at $89.99, and it's gorgeous. It's this light heather gray. It's crew neck, and it's based on the design of the X-Wing pilot jumpsuits. It has a rippled knit detail on the chest and back, and it references the fighter pilot's outfits. It's super soft cotton, and it has something called a waterfall back. So it has a tie at the top of the sweater right at the base of the neck, and then there's an open part to the back, which is a really fun little detail. So I've got my eye on that one for sure.
Yeah, so do I.
And then for the guys, of course, since we were talking about Chewbacca tonight, not to be outdone, we've got a little Chewbacca zipped cardigan for the guys, pre-ordering at $129.99. And this one's really cool. It's got sort of a asymmetrical zipper in the front, and it has what's called an ombre design to the dye, where it goes light to dark, and then, or I should say dark to light and then dark again. Really cool hood, and then the Alliance logo on the sleeve. So it's really, really cool. Yeah. So yeah, for the guys, I would even wear that one.
Well,
I think that's more of a unisex.
$130 for a shirt.
Well,
it's a jacket
with a zipper.
It's like a cardigan jacket.
Okay.
So you could really get into the spirit if you put that together with some sort of a messenger bag that would replicate that.
It's a European carry-all. That's what it's called.
That too. But anyways.
But I will say that Mustard Brand has amazing quality in their design, attention to detail. I own several pieces myself, so yeah, they are a little on the pricier side. But when you're looking at quality and everyday cosplay kind of thing, it's really cool. Yeah. So something to look into. Yeah, they also have ladies Organa cardigan and a Wookiee cardigan, very similar to my Kylo Ren cardigan that you can check out on my unboxing video on my YouTube channel, or Coffee with Kenobi.
Right.
Both of those are $129.99 as well. And then real quick, the swimsuits. There's 4 different one-piece swimsuits. No release date as of yet, but with summer right around the corner, I imagine these will probably be coming out pretty soon. So there's a Princess Leia inspired white from her outfit in A New Hope. And then there's an Ahsoka Tano that look very similar to her head tails. And then there's a Kylo Ren. So the Kylo Ren is black and silver, and the Ahsoka Tano is blue and white with some orange detail. And then there's a Rebel Pilot, one that is orange and white as well.
I think that's my favorite.
The Rebel?
Yeah.
That would be a very complimenting sort of design. Well, all of them really are, because especially the Kylo Ren and the Ahsoka Tano one, the way that the lines, the silhouette on the sides, that's very flattering to a waistline.
Yeah, do these come in men's sizes?
Look. Men's sizes or men's styles?
Sizes?
Well, probably not, but if you really tried really hard and you got some of that compression wear to wear along with it, you might pull it off. So
let's not have that conversation.
Yeah, again. Nobody wants to see it pulled off. I guarantee you that.
All right. So yeah, that's Mustard Brand. So check them out. Keep them on your radar. And then really quickly, I just went through, since we're talking about C-3PO, and just talking about some of my own personal favorite accessories that I have. And one of these is actually available on ThinkGeek right now for $119 for these shoes. And Irregular Choice is the maker. And anyone who knows about the Irregular Choice brand, they are well known for their quirky fashion sense, sometimes outrageous designs. But I actually have 2 pair of Irregular Choice. Or do I have 3? I have 2. So I have my 3PO ones, and then I also have like a Darth Vader and Stormtrooper. So one is Darth Vader and one is Stormtrooper. But these are so much fun. And the bottoms of them actually have a little design that has Luke Skywalker, and then Princess Leia, Han Solo, and Obi-Wan Kenobi from A New Hope.
Yeah.
And so those are a lot of fun to wear. But I do highly recommend that if you get these types of shoes from Irregular Choice, that you need to buy the sole guards. They're these clear adhesive things that you put on the bottom of the shoe that you could fit to it so that it protects the picture. So they're anti-skid, and you just cut them to fit, and you slap them on there, and then you can protect the design that way. And it makes them non-skid too. So when I'm on those lovely floors at school with all the slippery wax, I don't fall.
Yeah.
Which is nice.
So how do you show off those images on the bottom of your feet then? I mean, like,
you don't
in karate
really.
or...
No, I mean, they're just mainly there for you. And especially in certain cultures, you don't want to show them the bottom of your soles of your shoes because that's kind of a not good thing for etiquette. So,
yeah, well.
But yeah,
Here
but they're
in
just
America.
a fun little, I know, but they're just a fun little addition to it.
We call them freedom shoes.
Freedom shoes. You and your freedom this and freedom that. All right, so I've got a couple of fun necklaces. So one that I love is from Hot Topic, and it has a charm of 3PO's head and a golden heart charm that's laden with rhinestones, and those are set together on a rhinestone encrusted ring, and it's very inexpensive. I think I tried to find it on the Hot Topic website and I couldn't, so it's possibly discontinued, but I think I might have paid only like $12 for it. So it's really cute, and it's a longer necklace that you can layer with others, but it's dainty and subtle enough not to overpower your outfit. But something that I'm going to talk about here in just a little bit from the Kessel Runway, they have a themed item roundup once a week called the Leia's List, and they just recently had a roundup of all of the C-3PO necklaces that she was able to find. So you can head on over to the Kessel Runway for that. And then I also have a necklace from Love and Madness, who was actually recently acquired by Her Universe. And it's a door knocker type necklace. So this is a very heavy necklace. I think C-3PO's head is about, I want to say 2 inches tall. So it's pretty chunky and clunky, but it's a lot of fun. And
looks like Flavo Flav.
Yeah, it's big. It is. It's really big. But I have a review on my Core Worlds Couture with Coffee with Kenobi about the Love and Madness door knocker necklaces. So if you want to check that out, you can. And my own personal favorite is one that I came up with myself, and I wore it to Celebration Anaheim in 2015. So some of you that know me, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I love steampunk and I love C-3PO, so I put them together and made a female interpretation, steampunk style of C-3PO. So I cosplayed this at Celebration Anaheim, and I made the outfit from head to toe, and I even had a silver shoe.
Whoa, that was you? I kept trying to get over there and meet you, and people kept telling me not to. They said that you didn't want to meet me.
No, seriously, you were there?
Yeah.
You saw me there?
Yeah.
Whoa.
And they kept like...
That is so cool.
I was like, I gotta meet whoever that is dressed like C-3PO in a steampunk style. And they were like, yeah, look over there. There's lightsabers. I'm like, why are you trying to distract me?
I would have totally taken a picture with you. I seriously felt like a big old celebrity that day because I had so many people that stopped me and asked me about my outfit, and I have to put some pictures on.
That's why I was being redirected by your handlers. I'm just saying.
So I didn't have any handlers.
Yeah, right.
I had my best friend.
Okay.
But it was so much fun to do, and I met a lot of other steampunk cosplayers, and I did have a couple people that asked me if I was what's her name from the parody
Little House on the Prairie.
Spaceballs. No.
Oh, Spaceballs. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was my other guess.
Yes. I'm like, no. So I kind of had to explain to some people, but then other people were like, oh, Steampunk 3PO. That's so cool.
There was a dot matrix running around the show, though.
Yeah.
Yes, there was.
Yeah, I know. There was a bunch of really cool interpretations of different things. So yeah, it was a lot of fun to see people cosplaying. All right. So last but not least, of course, I always give out my Wizard Award. And this month, well, as always, the award goes to a shop, product, or person whom I feel deserves some extra attention. So this month, I want to shed some light on Christy Glasgow of the Kessel Runway, who I mentioned just a little bit ago. She has a daily blog and roundup of Star Wars fashion from every corner of the galaxy, and she features interviews with up-and-coming designers and merchandisers. In her Cantina Chatter section, reviews, new product information. I mentioned the Leia's List, which highlights products that surround a particular theme, fashion news, and more. And I know I am very appreciative of all of her hardworking efforts. I don't know how she does it all on a daily basis. It's so much for me just to get my reviews out when I do. But she lives in New Zealand with her hubby, whom she met through her Star Warsing, her teenage daughter, and they have 6 cats. And together with her hubby, they also run the website Star Wars New Zealand, which is www.swnz.co.nz. But one really cool and romantic fact about these two is that he actually proposed to her at Villa, I can never say this, Balbaniello in Italy. It's the place where they filmed. Good. Thank you. Padme and Anakin's first kiss and their wedding scenes from episode 2. And their courtship was even featured in an article on StarWars.com. And you can find that link on her About Me section of the Kessel Runway website, which is really cool.
Yeah, there's no better place to recreate awkward love than...
Yeah,
right there. Of course, I have to ask this question.
Sure.
New Zealand. So, where was Zealand?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know.
We want to know.
I am so bad with geography, so you're asking the wrong person.
Tweet us. Okay.
Yes, Scoundrels, if you know, let us know. Yep. So you can find the Kessel Runway on all of your social media outlets, and you can even subscribe to our newsletter on our homepage. You can also request to join the community group on Facebook that allows members to share their Star Wars style by offering gently used items to buy and sell. And I've actually taken advantage of that a couple of times myself. Just one of the ways that I got a pair of irregular choice shoes for much, much less than retail.
Okay.
So you can find her at thekesselrunway.com.
Cool.
So congratulations, Christy, and thank you for all of your efforts.
All right.
So that'll do it for That's So Wizard. Thanks for tuning in.
The kids of the 70s and 80s are all grown up, but the good times of childhood don't have to end.
Our generation can share the fun and fandom of our youth with the next generation and bring the past into the future.
And wrap it all up to make a fantastic present.
Join Jedi Schwa and Chef's Bazaar every Monday morning to get your work week started by reminiscing about the past and exploring the future with your earbuds on Techno Retro Dads.
So find us on iTunes, Facebook, Twitter, or on RetroZap.com. Part of the RetroZap Network.
Greetings, Scoundrels. This is Scott Murray from the Assembly of Geeks Podcast Network. You're listening to Dennis, Darth Taxus, and Jay on Starships, Sabers, and Scoundrels.
Scoundrels, we're on the road to Solo. In this series, we explore various characters and elements related to everyone's favorite smuggler from a long time ago in that galaxy far, far away. In this installment, we are discussing two of Solo's closest allies and friends, Chewbacca and Lando. Okay. Joining us for this discussion is Scott Murray from the Assembly Geeks Podcast Network. Scott, welcome to Starship, Sabers, and Scoundrels, and thanks for joining us.
Oh, well, thanks for having me. Always fun to talk Star Wars, any place, anytime, anywhere, anyway.
Okay, so what is Han Solo without his favorite sidekick and his old friend Lando? Chewbacca, as everyone knows, is immensely popular with Star Wars fans. And let's start there. Why exactly is that? Scott, what is your opinion on Chewbacca?
Well, I mean, when you think about how unique Star Wars was when it came out in 1977, especially for science fiction hitting the big screen and actually meaning something for the first time in years. I mean, everybody talks about the effects, but I mean, Chewbacca is a pretty imposing figure on that screen, and he looks real. For 1977, that looked really, really good. And, I think like a lot of things in Star Wars, there's just elements of him that's memorable. I mean, he's like I said, he's an imposing figure, but he's on the good side of the team. He's got a powerful gun. He's got a memorable sound, and he gets to fly on one of the coolest ships in the galaxy with one of the coolest characters in the galaxy. So, I mean, he's got everything working for him. So I think of that, and I think a lot of people look at him in a lot more positive light than the old Saturday Night Live parody where they had Jack Lemmon auditioning for him and said he's a space ape.
Jay, what do you think?
Well, Scott, I think you hit it right on the head when you said that, he's someone that everyone just loves. And he's been around since the beginning. He's the only other character besides our lovable droids that we've really gotten to know as far as a sidekick character, I guess you could say, throughout the entire saga. And you're absolutely right. He's got so much depth of personality. He's funny. He's so loyal. And he's just got that big old mushy heart underneath all that fur that you think 1 second he's going to rip your arms off, but then the next minute he could be giving you a hug. So yeah, he's just got this awesome personality, and he's one of those kind of characters that I think are just naturally magnetic to every segment of the fandom.
Mm-hmm. And basically what I took away from that, Jay, is that he's unstable. Kind of bipolar, maybe. I'm not sure. Okay. No,
he's versatile.
There you go, versatile. Very powerful too. Yeah. So he really. I mean, you're right. I mean, when you think about the iconic times that you've seen Chewbacca do Chewbacca-y things, he really was kind of solidified in our hearts with The Empire Strikes Back, of course, because of all the emotion of that show. But let's face it, if it wasn't the comedy in the first one, where you've got the biggest creature in the film, who's a chicken, basically, after the trash compactor scene, and even Han's like, Chewie, get in here. And it kind of reminded me of a dog. So, sort of like because of, he was based on, the canine and everything, but the George Lucas's dog. But yeah. So, I mean, I think that's the thing that really endeared him to us, is that, not only was he the sidekick like that, he also, he's kind of reminiscent of the man's best friend, let's face it. And he really, really broke down doorways for men with really, really hairy chests. Just saying.
What did you think? What did you think of him doing the Tarzan thing in Jedi?
Well, that never really bothered me until recently, and then it doesn't even particularly bother me. I really never thought about it much until people started mentioning that it was among those moments in cinema that took them out of the movie, because it wasn't something that belonged in, or why should it appear in the galaxy far, far away? Why should it appear in Star Wars? But up until recently, I don't think I ever really gave it much thought, other than remembering laughing at it the first time I recall seeing it at the theater.
Yeah. Jay, I'll let you feel this.
Because you're a kid and you'll laugh at that stuff when you're a kid. It's when you get to adult and you overanalyze everything.
Yeah. Well, you're right. I was in third grade the first time I saw this movie. Yeah. That's when it was released. And, one of the things I noticed about Chewbacca is that he's meant a lot more to me as I've gotten older. And I think part of the reason is that as a kid, I didn't have pets because of my mother's allergies. And when I got older, I've had cats and I've had dogs. And there's that loyalty factor you always get with a pet that I think is one of Chewbacca's hallmarks, is how loyal he's always been to Han. Now, that kind of brings up one of the next questions I wanted to ask, is that with Chewbacca, you get the legendary life debt, and that has changed in meaning over time, and I suppose we're going to get more details on that in Solo: A Star Wars Story. But what do you all make of the life debt concept? Scott, what do you think?
What you mean with Han?
Yeah. What's
your
talking
about the life debt or life day?
Life debt.
Okay.
Yes, two very different things, indeed.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I'm trying to avoid the holiday special if I can.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I really would like to learn about that. I'm really hoping that's what Han Solo, the Han Solo movie, is going to dive into, because as you were saying, it's something we'd always heard about. And then of course that's one of those things where generally you hear people with their own kind of spin on what it means. Han rescued him, or Han did this or that, and that's when Chewbacca had to fulfill a life debt. So it really would be nice to get more depth out of that side of their relationship from the Han Solo movie.
Jay, what do you think?
Well, I agree with you as well, Scott, on that one too. Just hoping to see a little bit more of that background story in the new Han Solo movie. But I always took it as obviously a very deeply cultural thing for the Wookiees, that this would be something that just basically pays homage to someone who did something for you that was absolutely extraordinary. And, we don't know exactly what that extraordinary thing was, but obviously it caused Chewie to leave his home, his family, his planet, his lifestyle, and give it all up to follow this smuggler across the galaxy. So it's obviously a pretty powerful thing, and I'm sure there's a lot of mystique, background type thing to it that hopefully we'll get to find out what that is.
Yeah, I don't know. The term life debt kind of sounds like obligation to me. And now that you bring it up, Dennis, I'm just thinking I've never gotten the sense of obligation between Chewbacca and Solo, right? More like just a deep, long-lasting friendship that only a man and a Wookiee can have when traveling across the galaxy with each other.
Is it possible it started as that and then grew into what you're talking about over time?
That's good movies. That's good movies, Scott, if that's what happens. So, I mean,
well, they say that, I think it was Kirshner that said that the Han Solo movie is a love story.
Wow.
And the love story is between Han and Chewie.
Well, there you go. And I mean, but as I point out, as Dennis pointed out recently in Jedi Journals with Jovial J. Shepard, the longest Star Wars literature podcast out there, that Black Chrysanthemum, he didn't necessarily have the same type of take on a life debt.
I don't know why I said Kirshner. I meant to say Kasdan. Lawrence Kasdan.
So but you know what I'm saying? I mean, he didn't have the same take on what a life debt was. I mean, to him, it was a completely different thing, whereas to Chewbacca, it's more like, I'm going to follow you around forever and ever. You and I are going to be friends, and I will call you Han,
Right. Well, I think there's something to what you've all said, which is I think it's a personal thing, and I think that obligation means something different to every Wookiee. Honestly, the concept of a life debt in the Legends got way out of control, where it was, I remember as much as I liked the Knights of the Old Republic games, but I can't remember the Wookiee's name that was in the second one. And the simple act of saving his life essentially turned him into a slave for the player character, and then later a different character in the game. And it's just that, it's almost one of those things where it gets to the point, it's like, well, if I save this Wookiee life, do I really want to take on this obligation of having to be the target of a life debt?
Yeah.
So, it's clearly meant something different to Chewbacca than it did to Chrysanthemum. Obviously, I kind of like what they've done with it since the canon's been reset. Although we haven't had a lot of explicit discussion of it. If you think of something like the Aftermath trilogy in that second book, once they, spoiler warning, if you haven't read this book that came out 2 years ago, that once they liberated Kashyyyk, Chewbacca stayed behind. And, there was none of this, I'm going to have to, pack the Falcon full of my family because I have to follow you around, Han. It was
right.
Han said, no, at some point I want you to come back. You need to be in my son's life, but you need to stay here and take care of your people. Whereas in the Legends, another spoiler warning, when Chewbacca was killed off in the first book in that Yuzong Vong series, his family was packing the Falcon with Wookiees to take on the life debt.
Yeah.
And at some point, it's like, well, that just, it quits being an obligation to honor someone, and it kind of develops a Messiah complex there.
You make a good point, though, Dennis, with as far as how is it interpreted from each relationship? Because, I mean, obviously, Han and Chewie were great friends. And so, as it was stated, maybe it started out as sort of a debt, but then they became friends. And it just goes back to Han's personality as well, where some people, and that's the nature of friendship. I mean, there are some people who take advantage of their friends, just because you're friends with some. You know what I mean? But just because you're friends with somebody doesn't mean that you have this all, rainbows and butterflies kind of relationship with them all the time either. So I think there's probably different dynamics at play with each life debt and life debtor and dettee.
Yeah, I mean, I think that has me, that's kind of what I was just thinking about, because, it definitely helps if the person you owe the life debt to is a good person in some form or fashion.
Yeah.
Better for it to be Han Solo than maybe Hondo as your person you owe your life debt to, somebody you can trust a little more.
Exactly.
So with Han having passed in The Force Awakens, we see that Chewbacca is still hanging around, and now he's kind of become devoted to Rey. Or is it that Rey's kind of inherited the Falcon for some reason, and he's loyal to the ship.
Huh.
What's your all's take on that? Or is it the Resistance, for that matter?
I think I think that I mean, clearly Han wanted Rey to be part of the crew. Mm-hmm. And part of it could be Chewie honoring what Han wanted. You know, there's probably still some loyalty and attachment, to the Falcon. And, I have a hard time just seeing Chewbacca going, well, I don't have any more obligation and just leaving. Although, our colleague over at
it's Chewie time.
Jeff McGee said he'd love to, he had the alternate version of Han getting killed in Force Awakens, and Chewie throws up and just leaves because his life debt's over.
Like, mic drop, I'm out of here. Huh?
Yeah. So I think it's probably, I don't think it's one thing, it's probably several things, one of which, and you can see even in the Han Solo movie, there's a emphasis on putting the crew together. And, Han said that Chewie kind of liked Rey already, and it's clear Rey knows her way around a ship, and they can trust her. So, I think there's a little bit of everything going on there. I don't think Han would want him to walk away from the Resistance or from Rey in this case, or the Falcon for this case.
Oh my gosh, I just thought of something real quick. Chewie, does he make it?
Does he make it what?
Like past the next movie?
Probably.
I mean, they've done a good job with all the others. I'm just saying.
Well, you say that, but the thing is that, the only reason that is a concept is because Carrie Fisher has died, not Princess Leia. In this case, yes, we lost Han Solo in The Force Awakens. We lost Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi. But Princess Leia hasn't disappeared from the movies officially yet. So I don't know that, because you always refer to those characters as the big three, and Han and Chewbacca has been a sidekick to a member of the big three. As important as he is to all of us, I don't think he still occupies that same part of the stratosphere when it comes to the hierarchy of Star Wars characters.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'll grudgingly admit that.
Taken. I mean, anything is, they've proven that they're willing to kill off our most beloved characters from Star Wars, so anything's possible.
Yeah, you don't really think about them, though, whenever you're right. You think about the big three, but, man, how would we feel if Chewbacca or, even 3PO or R2-D2, That'd be terrible.
Well, yeah, it's interesting that you say that, and getting back to what Scott was saying, kind of tying that in as well. Chewbacca is sort of a common thread to just about everyone. You know what I mean? So what you were saying, Scott, with the fact that he might feel a certain obligation to stay behind just for the fact that it was Han's ship or whatever. But he also, I mean, he's built up this family, because it's not just Han anymore. It's Leia. It's even Ben, Kylo Ren, who obviously he watched grow up and then turn, and he knows Luke, I mean, so he's got all of this expanded family, so to speak. So I couldn't see him just walking away once Han died. So there's just too much at stake.
He has an expanded universe of family members now.
He sure does.
Well, one last question on Chewbacca, and then we'll talk about Lando a bit here. But Jay, you touched on it here. What does anyone think Chewbacca has in mind when it comes to Ben Solo or Kylo Ren at this point? We saw his reaction when Kylo killed Han, but this was someone that it was important to Han that Chewbacca be a part of his life. Leia's tasks to Han when he left Dakar, the Resistance headquarters, was to bring Kylo back. Is this something as maybe part of a life debt, or just an act of family that Chewbacca might try and fulfill at some point? I mean, you didn't get the opportunity to see him at all in The Last Jedi, but if they were to come face to face in Episode 9, what would we expect of that encounter, at least from Chewbacca's viewpoint?
I have ideas.
Okay.
Well, let's hear him.
At first, when he confronts him, he would go, "I love you!" And then he would just embrace him in a giant Wookiee hug of death.
Okay.
And they'd both go out together at the same time.
Oh, goodness. Well, okay. Well, I do think it has to be hard for Chewbacca because, obviously he can see the pain that Han and Leia have gone through watching their son become the person that he now is. And obviously he came to Luke's rescue with Rey against Kylo Ren, at Crate. So even though he didn't realize that wasn't actually Luke, or maybe he didn't even know that Luke's hologram was there. But yeah, it's got to be so incredibly tearing and difficult for him because his sense of family is so deep. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be interesting to see. Perhaps they will come face to face in Episode 9, and perhaps Chewie will be the one to, confront him in some way, shape, or form. Yeah, mm-hmm. That's a very interesting question because I'd love to see that play out in some ways.
Death hug. Just mark it down.
Scott, what do you think?
I mean, it's hard to say because there's so many things that we still don't know, and The Last Jedi didn't really give us any more answers. At least not enough to where this is any easier to predict than it would have been when we saw the Force Awakens. Mm-hmm. The only thing I can think of is I don't think he's impulsive, at least, because we just spent a lot of time talking about his deep roots in the Resistance, his roots with the Rebels, and his extended family here. And over that time, who knows how much Chewie knew about the issues related to Han and Leia and their relationship, and what the struggles dealing with Ben's issues were along that line. We know that when we see Han in The Force Awakens, he's kind of come full circle on how he views the Force and the Jedi and the things that can do to a person, whether it's Luke or Vader. So it's probably not hard for Chewie to comprehend that, that side of Ben is what killed Han and not every ounce of Ben. So it's really probably going to depend on what Ben's arc is by the time Episode 9 is over. Is he going to be redeemed? Is he going to, they've already turned so many things that we used to think on top of their heads. Who knows what's going to happen with them? But I think there's a lot for him to sort through there. But the hard part is we just don't know a lot of those details, in between the birth of Ben and the death of Solo.
Yeah, I think you've all raised very good points here. I think, we don't know exactly how they would encounter each other, which I think would have a lot to do with it. To what Jay was saying, he showed up on Crate with Rey, and they helped defend, members of the Resistance that were charging the First Order. But at the same time, if it was, they ran into each other in a hall and they weren't surrounded by stormtroopers and Resistance fighters, then that encounter might go one way. But if Kylo was carving up, Resistance soldiers or threatening Rey or Leia or someone else, could be something completely different. But I don't know. One last comment is that during The Force Awakens, we saw several scenes of exactly how powerful that bowcaster was that he was using, just destroying stormtroopers, sending them flying through the air, blowing up rocks, taking out several of them at a time. And when he drew on Kylo, he could have shot him square in the chest or the head or somewhere like this, but yet he chose to aim lower. So I don't know. Maybe that says something. Maybe I'm thinking about it too much.
Because he was saving him for the death hug later.
Right. Okay. Well, let's move on to Lando. When we first see Lando, he doesn't, he's already, I guess let me phrase, he was not the scoundrel that Han still was at the time. I should say, he, as he would be describe himself, he's a businessman. He's the administrator of Cloud City, and he's allegedly moved on from this life. But then, of course, we come to find out that the Empire showed up right before Han and company did, and he had to cut a deal. So let's talk about maybe our first impressions of Lando, and then we can talk about and then where they've evolved to today. So, Scott, what is it that you think about with Lando?
Well, first of all, it was inspired casting.
Yeah.
You know, there couldn't have been anybody cooler on the planet to play Lando than Billy Dee. I mean, you know, that whole thing just represents just how next level Empire was in 1980. You know, just the coolness, you know, to bring Billy Dee Williams in, to have him play this character that you're immediately engaged with, and then you learn a little bit of the history with him and Han, makes you intrigued more about you know, Han's past even back then. You know, but of course Leia's not real sure what to make of him. But then, you know, you think about it, I mean, when you have a sequel to what was clearly the biggest movie in ages from Star Wars in 77, you wonder, you know, what kind of new worlds and things are we going to see? I mean, what a cool idea to have this city floating in the clouds, and then you have this really cool guy that's running the place, and, you know, you immediately get immersed in it while that whole thing's going on. And oh, by the way, some of the biggest moments in the trilogy's history are going to take place in the next 30 minutes in this place, you know? So, I mean, I just look at it all as, you know, Star Wars really going next level with everything, you know, after the success of that first one. And then clearly, you know, even in that short screen time, you couldn't help but have all kinds of thoughts about Lando. And it made it really cool going into Jedi to see, you know, Lando disguised as the skiff guard and being there as part of the plan to rescue Han just made it all that much better and him all that much cooler.
Mm-hmm. Jay, were you willing to forgive Lando for betraying Han and Leia and Chewbacca? Did you have sympathy? Or empathy for that situation, or did he have to redeem himself to you in Return of the Jedi?
Oh, goodness. Well, you know, it's one of those things where, and Scott, you bring up so many good points as far as his character is concerned. I was 10 when this movie came out. So for me at first, looking at it from the surface situation, was that this guy was not very nice to his best friend. You know, why did he do that? But you kind of understand in some ways why he was in that position and maybe why he did what he did. His hands were tied and he had to make a bad decision based on a bad situation, and then he had to just kind of deal with it. But his character has so many layers. He's one of those kind of people that I feel like was one of those crazy guys in high school that really, really tried to grow up and move on from it, but yet you still see that crazy side in them yet today, and they still sometimes make bad decisions, but they're really, really trying, and they don't mean to betray you, but they just do. So
it's like you're staring into my soul, Jay.
Talking to you, Taxus. Mm-hmm. No. but seriously, it's I think it'll be, and again, this is one of the reasons why I'm so looking forward to the Han Solo movie, is to hopefully get to see a little bit more of a glimpse into this character, because it's one of those characters that I never really sat down and thought about all that much until just recently, other than the fact that he was cool and suave and Han's buddy. That was pretty much it.
Well, you know, it's interesting, as Scott said, that he put down his old ways and moved on, because I have to say that I have never met a crooked small businessman who maybe screwed a young accountant out of a lot of money. I'm just saying. And as we hear, so you're part of the mining guild. We're small enough to where we skirt around their dues and fees and taxes. But anyway, you know, so I don't know. To me, he's still kind of acting, you know, he's still being a scoundrel, just a scoundrel in a suit, so to speak. So yeah, and that's who he is. I mean, you can't deny who you are, you know, and even in the books, what's he want to do after the rebellion wins? He goes back to Cloud City and he wants to liberate it. And, you know, what's one of the things he knows how to do to get people to enjoy themselves and get money flowing again? Gambling. Oh yeah. So he sets up a new casino. So, you know, I don't fault him for that. I'm just saying.
And even as much as he's grown up, he's never really grown up. There's the one part in one of the Aftermath books. It's whenever, you know, they're getting ready to have Ben, and he says he's got to send some sort of a gift, you know. And I think it's Lobot that was basically trying to help him set up this baby gift to send, and he's like, "Didn't we just send them a wedding present?" You know, I could just hear him saying that. Wasn't that just like yesterday?
You have a nice impression of him. Well done.
Hey, thanks.
So, what is it? Do you think that kept him around with the rebellion? Because he had a responsibility to Han after betraying his friend and getting him captured by the Empire, and so he helped Chewbacca, Leia, C-3PO escape, and then of course R2-D2 and Luke Skywalker became part of that retreat as well. And then he was part of the plan to free Han from Jabba the Hutt. But then he stuck around and became a general in the rebellion, led the attack on the Death Star. And when that was all said and done, if you've read Aftermath, like you suggested, Jay, or you've played Battlefront 2, you know that he continued to lead armies on behalf of then the Republic until this was all said and done. Then, kind of once he got the war settled down, he went back to being a businessman. So, what is this? Is this purely a reflection of his guilt over Han, or do you think this was always something that was inside of him? And I'm going to throw this one open to anybody.
I think part of it was maybe the redemption factor. He felt so bad about what happened with Han on Cloud City that he felt like he really needed to show how dedicated he was. But I really do feel that he needed a sense of purpose too. And this allowed him to fulfill that sense of purpose and duty to not only, to someone other than himself.
Well, I just think about how he became a general in the first place. Even Han's a little surprised to see that,
right.
Suddenly he's a general with the rebellion. And, Lando says, well, somebody must have told him about my little maneuver at the Battle of Tanab. So, the rebellion, I think, had a way of taking advantage of opportunities when they could get really good people on their side. We've seen that happen in several different stories. And perhaps that was part of, what got Lando on board. It's like, look, we'll make you a general, we'll make you a leader in this thing. And, who knows, maybe part of that might have been, taking this thing as far as they can go until the job is done. So, maybe there was something there when they made him a general.
All right, so 3 things. First off, General's clothes look kick ass, and so obviously he loves style. He's going to stick around for that and the power, okay? Second, there's a hidden cache of really hot rebellion women somewhere. Just saying. And third, the rebellion really has a really good 401 krill program. So, and he was kind of a little lax on the whole retirement program, so, he needed that.
You suck. Well, part of me, I guess, is like, I don't know exactly how it is that he came about acquiring Cloud City or becoming the administrator of that mining colony, world city, whatever you want to call it. It was something he took very seriously. Han Solo makes that remark, in Empire Strikes Back after they get to Cloud City. He's like, look at you, all responsible. And it's just kind of, I don't know what we're going to see in Solo, but I got the distinct impression that Lando was pretty proud of himself, that he had managed to turn his life around to that point, that he had worked hard. There was the Lando comic that came out a couple years ago, in which he works with Lobot and a couple of people to steal the Emperor's prized yacht, and then a whole bunch of things goes wrong, and that's partly why Lobot is the way he is now. And so he's had these lessons, where he's kind of had to sit back and reassess. And I can't help but wonder if once the Empire took this from him, that's just kind of where he drew the line. It's, if he'd worked as hard as he did to get to that point of his life, if he saw that, it's like, if it can happen to me, it can happen to anybody, and enough is enough.
Yeah.
But let's send it around one last time. Does anyone have any final thoughts they want to share on either one of these characters? Scott?
No, I actually had the chance to interview Billy D. Williams a few years ago.
Oh, wow.
And it was a really fun discussion. And he, I feel bad for the guy because we were just talking about, the whole betrayal. Of course, he doesn't see it as betrayal. And I think we discussed how, he was really kind of in a predicament, and he worked out the best deal he could for the chance to, come out, get everybody out on the good side of things when all said and done. It just took, took kind of a tough way to get there. But he said, everywhere he goes, he gets people talking about betrayal Han Solo. He said one time he was at a convention and he goes, this little kid walked up to the mic. He goes, he said this kid had the look of total just anger in his eyes. He said, oh my God, if this kid had a gun, I'd be dead. Because he just got up there and said, why did you betray Han Solo? So, on the other hand, Billy Dees had to work a lot of time explaining to people the other side of the story. So I do think there's two sides of that story. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's great to still be able to have such an attachment to both these characters after so many years.
Jay?
I love that you brought that whole interview up. That is so great. And it makes me think too, and again, all these layers of Lando that I never really thought about before. And I think of oftentimes, as we were talking about, kids that I've watched grow up as a teacher, kids that they start out as freshmen and they're kind of immature and they make bad decisions. And then you really see their growth. And you see them redeem themselves through the decisions that they make and the things that they do, to really become leaders at school or role models, essentially. And I kind of think that's a little bit of what Lando did. But it's funny how you mentioned, he sees it as he was trying to make the best deal that he could. And of course, my mind always goes to Robot Chicken. And I always think
deal's getting worse every time.
This deal's getting worse. You will ride this unicycle, So it was like he was so strapped for what he needed to do, but he was just trying to make the best of it. So Scott, that was so great you brought that up. But backtracking to Chewie too, I was writing down some of my favorite Chewie moments earlier, just getting ready for this. And I was thinking all the way back to when he was a commander in Revenge of the Sith and watching his interactions with Yoda and just his whole, he's just encompassed so much throughout the saga. And he's meant so much to us. And just seeing his different interactions, the way that he meticulously put C-3PO back together and his whole personality and, just the guilt trip that the Porgs laid on him and he just couldn't bear to eat them, and how he wailed after Han was tortured and then, of course, put into carbonite and just his whole spectrum of emotions. He's just such a great character.
Yeah, I gotta say, it's to both your remarks, it's I find it interesting that people still get so upset with him because, I mean, to me, he was a hero after Return of the Jedi. He blew up the Death Star. Give the guy a break. So, Taxus, what's your final thoughts then?
I wish they were both my real life friends, for real. That's all.
Aww.
All right. Well, it's interesting. Both these characters, I think, I've grown to appreciate a lot more over time. As a kid, it was all about the big main characters, Leia, Luke, and Han, and they're the ones that got the lion's share of attention. But Lando's very relatable with having set up a life outside of a war and then being sucked into this and then doing what he has to do before he can go back to what he's doing. And it's not like he even has a family at home. He's just trying to do right by the galaxy at that point. And then, of course, Chewbacca is just, his loyalty is something that I think we all could stand to emulate just a little bit more. But anyway, so that will do it for this edition of The Road to Solo.
What are you doing here?
Repairs. I thought you could help me out.
What have you done to my ship?
Your ship? Hey, remember, you lost her to me fair and square.
And how you doing, Chewbacca? You still hanging around with this loser?
Hello, what have we
All right,
here?
Scoundrels. Well, we have a very special surprise treat for you. Scott has decided to stick around for us for a very special little game. And since this is our 50th episode, we're doing a little bit of a tribute to our favorite golden boy, C-3PO. And so I put together a little trivia game. And Scott has, like I said, graciously agreed to stick around for this. And I'm going to say right now that I'm not going to measure up to the MC the Taxus is, I'm sure, on the Geek Supreme. But we'll see. We'll see how we do. So the way that this is going to be played is I've compiled a bunch of trivia questions about C-3PO, and we'll see who gets what right, and we'll keep some points here. So you guys ready to play?
How are you doing it?
Not at all.
All right. Not at all. Well, most of the questions are open-ended questions, and there are a couple of multiple choice questions as well. So I will keep score for us here, and we'll see how this goes. Here's your first question, Scott. How many scenes does C-3PO share with Darth Vader in the original trilogy? How many scenes does he share with Darth Vader?
In the original trilogy. So they're in the same place, or they're in the same shot?
In the same, like, scene, the same shot.
Okay.
Same set, I guess.
I'm gonna say, off the top of my head, I'm gonna say 3. I'm thinking Princess Leia's ship, Cloud City, and Hoth.
Okay. I see where you're kind of going with that. It's actually only one. It's the carbonite scene in Empire Strikes Back, where they're in the same, like,
carbon freezing chamber. Right.
Yep.
Okay, so it was same shot. Okay. Well, I knew they're not in the same shot, but they were in the same scene. So yes, same shot, Cloud City, same scene, those 3.
Okay.
Wow, Dennis, I really am afraid now for us.
Yeah, this is getting off to a whopping start.
How many buttons does C-3PO have on the back panel?
No. All right. Well, since that wasn't a very clear question,
No,
Scott, I'll
okay.
give you the point. How's that?
What?
Especially since you're our guest. Oh, shush, Taxus.
What?
I'm going to tell you what I tell my kids. It's my classroom. It's my rules. If you don't like it, too bad.
I can promise you Taxus would have given that point in Geek Supreme.
There is so much revenge that's going to happen later.
And we would have protested, but he would have done it anyway, just like this.
All right.
It's not so fun when the tables turned on you, are they?
I'm going to allow it.
All right, Dennis, are you ready?
I am ready.
Okay. Which of 3PO's legs is featured as silver?
The
You got
right
a
one.
50-50 shot. Yep, it's the right. Ding, 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 ding.
That was not nearly as difficult as Scott's question.
Oh, I told you some of them are kind of easy. All right, Taxus, are you ready? 3PO had the first line in the original trilogy and the last line in the prequel trilogy. Give me one or the other. What was one of the lines?
They've hit the main reactor? We're doomed.
I know it.
For the seal, Scott. Take it.
Go ahead.
I would take a complete, educated, wild guess for this Revenge of the Sith, but Star Wars Episode 4 was "Did you hear that?"
Yes.
And Revenge of the Sith was what? Oh no.
Yes.
I was thinking, oh no, yeah, oh no was what I guessed.
All right, my game. Scott, I'm giving you a point, and I'm giving Dennis a point because you guys had the first and the last. So guess what, Taxus? You got some work to do. All right, next question. Are you ready, Scott?
Yes.
Among many of the inspirations 3PO's character took, he was most directly inspired by the robot from what 1927 sci-fi movie? I have a feeling Taxus knows this because he's
Really?
Let me think back to all the 1920s movies I've watched. Haven't seen any, so I don't know.
Give you a hint.
I'm going to give you a hint. I'm going to give you a hint. It's not porn.
No.
Silent.
Jeez.
All right, Taxus, do you know it? I'll let you steal. What is it?
Metropolis.
Yup. Ding, 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 ding.
Well done.
Good job.
Bam.
All right, Dennis.
Wait a
Dennis,
minute. I stole that and I only got 1 point?
Well, yeah. Yeah.
It's like almost 100 years ago and I knew that. Never mind. Go ahead.
All right, Dennis.
Are you going to protest everything?
You know me.
You know he will. All right, Dennis. When 3PO tells Han about his odds of surviving the asteroid field in Empire Strikes Back, what were those odds?
Oh, good lord. The numbers on the tip of my tongue. And one of you two is going to steal this and get it right, too. Can't spit it out. 4,320 to 1. That's not right. That's what's coming to mind. Okay. Go ahead. Someone take it.
Was it 720,000 to 1?
Nope.
No.
Taxus. And don't you be Googling this either. I know you. 5 seconds.
1 to 1?
No. You were only 1,000 off, Dennis. It was 3,720 to 1.
Okay, yeah. That was. I knew the 20 was certain in there, but I was like, what's the beginning of that number?
That was actually verified by Carl Sagan, by the way.
I'm not sure that's correct.
Was it?
Yeah, it was.
Of the billions and billions.
It was a really rare episode of Cosmos, but yeah.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
I love Carl Sagan. All right, Taxus, you get the first multiple choice question. You ready?
Yep.
You ready? Okay.
My smart
According
test
to
taker
Ben
skills are
Burt,
engaged. Go ahead.
You know who Ben Burt is, of course, our
Yes.
sound engineer. What everyday kitchen item was used to create the sound of 3PO walking? Was it A, 2 cheese graters rubbed together, B, 2 ice cube trays rubbed together, C, a garbage disposal slowed down in speed, or D, an electric can opener? So was it cheese graters, ice cube trays, garbage disposal, or can opener?
Could a can opener be rubbing against a garbage disposal?
No.
Oh, okay.
This is not a multiple
Okay,
choice
maybe.
question.
Okay. D.
It was the ice cube trays. Sorry.
What kind of ice cream? What are they made of? Mesh?
Probably metal.
They're terrible
You know, the
ice
older
cube trays
ice
then.
cube-
What?
I don't know.
That's weird. Because it goes
First he's protesting the questions, now he's protesting the answers.
Ben Burt was a
method.
punk. I'm just throwing that out there.
All right, Scott, back to you.
sorry, I
What
love you, Ben
language does 3PO boast he is fluent in order to be purchased by Owen Lars?
Oh, come on.
Bocce.
Come on. No.
What?
But no. It was the thing that threw him over the edge. He did say he could speak Bocce, but then Owen asked him if he could speak in the moisture evaporator language, and he said, "But I can speak blank, very similar to your evaporators in many respects." But I'll take Bocce, just because you're our guest. It was binary load lifters.
Well, yeah, and he should be docked points for that.
Oh, stop it.
But binary load lifters is talking to something.
Oh, he's gonna
programming language of binary load lifters is very similar to your moisture
You're
evaporators.
treading on dangerous ground. She's gonna pull your points away, Scott. Right,
No,
Jen?
I see his point. It's okay. It's all good. It's all good. I gave him the point, right? All right, Dennis, you get a multiple choice.
Yay.
Okay, now this is from what I actually did a lot of research on this one, and this is from what I could gather. Now there may be another answer out there, but how many owners did 3PO have? And owners, quote unquote, 5,
Whoa.
7, 8, or 10? So how many owners did 3PO have?
That
And
is...
if you go through them, you'll probably figure it out.
Yeah, let's think about that for a second. And I guess I am going to think, well, Anakin built him. Then there was Shmi. Then there was the Lars family, I guess after Shmi disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
Then it was, like, does Padme count as an owner at that point? Well, I'm going to...
He counts as at some point.
Yeah, and then after that, wonder if Bail Organa counts because he assigned them at some point.
Counted him.
Okay. Then there is Captain Antilles.
Yep.
Then did the Jawas technically own him?
Yes.
Okay. Then you have Owen Lars again.
Good.
Now, does he count as a separate owner or not?
Because you got Clegg Lars and then you have Owen Lars.
Okay. So,
Because typically,
Little
he
did she know she
inherited
was
them
going to
after
get
Shmi.
questions as answers to the questions.
yeah, well, hey, look, this is a good one here. Then you have, I guess, Luke inherited him. And then perhaps Leia at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And was there anyone else? So, was there an answer larger than 10 amongst your multiple choice?
Nope.
Okay, well, I'm going to go with that.
Yep.
All right.
I'm going to immediately protest because
hold on just a second. Wait. Because I didn't count Luke as an owner per se, because it wasn't he that owned, it was Owen that owned him. However, I did count Jabba. So I set him up to 10, but technically Jabba didn't really own him because
Luke gave him
to him, he refused the offer.
Yeah, well then...
No, he still took him.
I don't know. I feel like Luke had to have owned him because he inherited him from...
Oh, okay. I'm going to protest, but I'm going to reverse my protest because the answer is still 10.
Okay.
Okay. And when 3PO was on the Lars homestead, before he was resold to Owen, who apparently couldn't remember that he owned him or had him, he just walked on off and went with Anakin and Padme. Okay. So he was never actually owned by him. He was just on loan. He was so he was acting as like in loco parentis or something. For him.
Well, you know what's so funny is there is actually an article online that somebody looked at all of the legal aspects of what ownership entails for these droids.
Is that Legal Geeks?
It was, no, I can't remember which website it was that I was laughing my way through the whole thing though, because they were talking about like different states and what their ownership, laws and things like that are. So. Yeah. But Dennis, you got the point. So right now it's 3 for Scott, 3 for Dennis, 1 for Taxus.
You should send that article to Dennis later. I'm sure he'd really like it.
So, I will. I'll find it. All right. So Taxus, this is an easy one. It's your turn. Are you ready?
Yeah, I guess.
Who orders? No, stop. You're such a bad sport.
Whatever.
Who orders 3PO's mind wiped at the end of Revenge of the Sith?
Captain Tilly? No. Bail Organa.
Yeah.
Sounded like Rick. Captain Antilles.
Oh, goodness. All right.
I am not giving myself a point in that in protest, even though you probably would have if I was Scott or Dennis shaped.
I did give you the point, so just you hush and take it.
I'm not taking it.
Scott, according to the dialogue in The Last Jedi, in how many forms of communication is 3PO now fluent?
Oh, dang.
I'm just going to say 7 million.
Yup.
Oh, wow.
That's it. Wow. Sound like Owen Wilson. Wow. All right, Dennis.
He's a resident of these parts.
Wow. What 2 nicknames does Han give 3PO? There's 2 that he calls him.
Let's see.
One is my alternative movie name, by the way.
I might know this one.
Well, there's Goldenrod.
Yeah, that's it.
And
there's one more.
I think I know the other one.
Give me a second here. It's Goldenrod. I'm trying to think of when he was.
I think he only calls him this like once.
I want to say he called him something around the Ewoks, but I can't think of what that was. So, I'm gonna have to pass on the second half of this answer.
What is it?
Is it the professor?
Oh, gosh darn it, yes. Yeah, take the professor back and look at the Falcon, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Sorry, I can't give you the full point for that one.
That's all right. I didn't deserve it.
All right, Taxus, back to you.
Yes.
How many pieces, you're going to hate me for this, how many pieces make up the costume Anthony Daniels donned as 3PO in The Force Awakens? I'll give you a hint. It's less than 20, but more than 15.
Hold on.
He's going to go Google it. I counted them in the picture, so don't bother.
I didn't run to my costuming book just now to look at. No, I really didn't. Let's see.
So it's less than 20, but more than 15. So
I'm gonna say. Let's see. Is the cod piece 1 piece or 2?
Oh, just guess a number between 16 and 20.
I'm gonna say 17.
19. Sorry.
Oh well.
All right. Jack Scott, here you go. You haven't gotten a multiple choice question yet, have you?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, you did? Okay, then I'll give you this one. Hoth's average nighttime temperature is minus 60 degrees Fahrenheit, which prompts 3PO to give the odds of Luke surviving at what? This is another odds one.
I don't remember.
I didn't remember this one until I looked it up. Do either of you guys remember?
I do not.
Huh?
Huh?
It's 725 to 1.
Okay.
All right, Dennis.
Yes.
Another Anthony Daniels question here. His favorite 3PO memorabilia is what? He's mentioned this several times at cons. It's a funny one.
The gold.
I've never seen him at a con.
Golden one?
Oh, seriously?
No, I haven't actually.
We saw him from a distance.
It's a very quirky, weird kind of piece of memorabilia. And he talks about it all the time.
Well, I'm going to let one of these two try and come up with the answer because I don't know what it is.
Do either of you guys know it?
Mm-mm.
I'll give you a hint. It's an office supply type thing.
A stapler?
No. You're on the right track, though.
Look, they've installed a stapler in me too, as well as another million languages.
You guys, when I say this, you're probably going to go, oh my gosh, I've seen that. Scott, did you have a guess?
No.
It's a Scotch tape dispenser with the roll between his legs.
I was about to say that. Oh
that,
my gosh.
But I didn't know that was his favorite, but I have seen it.
Yeah, he actually brings it out at his like Q&A sessions.
Huh.
I've seen it. And there was a funny thing of him reenacting it in real life too.
Whoa. Okay, I'm gonna have to check that out on YouTube.
You'll have to look that one out.
Yeah, I'm gonna look at that later in private.
Okay, whose question is it even? I've lost track.
Oh, it's my loser question. Go for it. I'm losing.
All right, this is the last one. This is the last question. Are you ready?
No.
It is a multiple choice question.
Okay.
This was actually, I got this one off of Insider, the last installment of Star Wars Insider. So this is right out of the quiz in there.
The British make everything hard. Go ahead.
What is the name of the communications module used by C-3PO units? So here are your choices. Is it A, Tranlang 3, B, Com Unit X, C, Translator Core, or D, the Language Modulator 3000? This was an Insider. I got it right out of Insider.
I don't know. Is it Translang? What was that one?
Yeah.
Okay.
You got it. It was A.
Okay. Yeah.
Whoa. All
wow.
right. So you guys ready to know who won?
I know who won.
It was
Well, actually, I'm just going to say this because Dennis and I are tied. I decided to accept your point from earlier and remove my protest of the protest. And Scott, you had 4 points in total, but I'm going to dock you 5 points from the last segment. So
this is
not the Geek Supreme.
Well, you're right. It's not. People should tune into the Geek Supreme only on the Assembly Geeks Network every Tuesday. You see what I did there, Scott?
Nice plug. Scott, you won. Good job. Yay, the first ever 3PO trivia.
You're the Scoundrel Supreme.
So you got your 4 points. Thank you for playing. I don't know
thank you
how you'll ever want to come back.
Oh, yeah, I will.
Well, Scott, thanks so much for joining us here for both our Chewbacca Lando discussion and this incredibly entertaining C-3PO quiz. Before you go, can you let everyone know what's going on with Assembly Geeks and where we can find you?
Yeah, well, we're on all the popular podcast hubs, but we also have a lot of people that go to assemblyofgeeks.com and stream and download the shows from there. We have our Geek Show, part Geek Show, part Geek Talk Show, our game show, I should say, with Darth Taxus every Tuesday. We have Comic Book Noob, of course, that helps people get familiar with comics if your only exposure to them is through movies and television. We have Superhero Therapy, which is hosted by Dr. Janina Scarlett, which dives into the psychology of our stories and applies them to things that people go through in real life. We have the Gamers Dominion coming back, and we have a new show starting next week called Geek Culture Spotlight. And it is a series of interviews that I did with people in geek culture that have either made geek culture a part of their life, or it's some geeks talking about how and why geek culture is important to them and how it's impacted their life just as everyday geeks.
Okay. Well, everyone should make sure they get to assemblygeeks.com to check all that out. Thanks so much again for joining us this week.
Thank you.
Hey, Robert, why should people listen to another retro gaming podcast?
You know, Arcast, David, we do have to keep this short, you know.
Yes, well, I guess we should start with the fact we celebrate old school video games.
And we have awesome guests and game giveaways. Don't forget that.
Plus our game show and your favorite segment, Random Select.
Don't remind me. Are we done yet?
Listen to Arcast, another retro gaming podcast, part of RetroZap.com.
Finally, back to my beer.
It's time for...
Silence Fools!
Well, we have an email to start things off, and this one came in to you, Jay, so why don't you start us off there?
It did indeed, and this is actually from a past Wizard Award recipient. It's Matt from Big Whiff Candles. If you remember, Matt and Lindsay are the owners and operators of Big Whiff Candle, and they had this to say: just finished listening to the entire podcast. I have to say I really enjoyed the podcast. I am completely obsessed with all things Star Wars, and I just love your show. We are so thrilled that you guys love the candles and completely love the shout out and awesome representation you have of our candles.
Well,
thanks so much. We truly appreciate all your hard work and are so glad we could give you something you enjoyed so much. I will be tuning into your podcast in the future. Thanks again for a wonderful shout out. May the force be with you, Matt.
Oh, I got to plan something special for them in the future then.
Yeah. So we appreciate that, Matt, a lot.
Yeah, Matt.
Yeah, well, don't make them regret that they wrote us there, Taxus.
I'm just going to wax philosophical.
Okay. All right. Well, let's turn to Twitter. We had a response to our first discussion of the Brian Daly's book, Han Solo Stars In, and this comes from Star Wars Dad at Dad Star Wars on Twitter. And he had this to say: enjoying this look back at a classic. Blue Max's buddy was called Zolix in the UK edition, by the way. Although the present day Kindle edition reverted to the Rude version. And then we interacted a little bit, and he responded to later with, "My inner 12-year-old was sniggering every time you called him bollocks." So, yeah, that was something that we brought up when we were discussing the book. Taxus and I did, and you mentioned that they had changed the name in the UK, but we weren't sure what it was at the time. So, mystery solved there. Next, we did our Twitter poll, and I apologize for getting that up late. I thought I had done it, and it turns out I had just set the thing up and never actually tweeted it. But after we got about 34 votes, and Taxus attempted to get the stuff there at the end by politicking for his choice, but the options were, the question was, if you need protection from a bounty hunter, who would you turn to? And this was from our episode 49 discussion. Jay, you nominated Obi-Wan Kenobi. Taxus went the
brave route.
Obvious route and went with nominated Cad Bane.
So bravely.
I nominated Mace Windu because he actually took down a bounty hunter in Attack of the Clones. And then we had our general other category. So the final results were 11% picked other, and we'll get into some of those in a second. We had a tie for second with 24% picking Cad Bane and 24% picking Mace Windu, which left Jay's supremacy. Of course you do. Which leaves Jay's choice of Obi-Wan as the winner.
Ooh, that's the second poll in a row I've won, just saying.
Yep. And the nice news is that, we actually had a representation. The people who selected other gave us some options. Fellow Retro Zapper Kendall Schroeder, whose art is featured over at RetroZap, responded with other. Hashtag Ahsoka would be my bodyguard of choice. Hashtag Ahsoka protects. So that's a good choice.
Yeah. When she's around. Just saying.
Ryder did not, our friend Ryder from Idiots Array did not select other, but he did chime in that he was in fact voting for Obi-Wan.
Dude, I thought
Derek Spires, also known as Raising Fangirls, he came up with a fun suggestion: Jackson the Rabbit. So mainly so I could hear him say, "I ain't no rodent," and land his 2-foot long foot against Dengar's. I mean, whoever's head, and then he tag Dengar Dan over Sandcrawler.
That's a good one.
And then we had someone I think that was going along here with Taxus's reasoning, and that was the Dark Moose, which is the Darkest Moose.
I think I like this guy.
Yeah, if a bounty hunter is after me, probably mixed up in some bad poodoo, so listing a Jedi self might put me in space jail. If I had the credits, I'd employ another bounty hunter, Boba Fett, if I can get him. Well, that way I have someone who thinks like a bounty hunter. So, yeah, that was I
told him, ooh, sneaky.
Yeah, that is sneaky. I think that's kind of along the lines of what you were thinking there, Taxus.
Yes.
With Cad Bane. All right, well, it's poll time again. So, in honor of our sidekick episode here, I'm going to put a rule up here right at the front. No Jedi. So keep that in mind as I read this. But if you are a smuggler who, other than Chewbacca or Lando, from the Star Wars galaxy and no Jedi, would you want as a sidekick? So, Jay, what do you think?
I think I'm going to, I've really thought about this one. I'm going to go with Hondo Ohnaka.
Hondo Ohnaka.
Yes.
That's a good choice. I like it. You want to give your little 20-second campaign speech?
Absolutely. Okay, so Hondo is so witty, so fun, but he's so loyal. He knows how to get the job done. He's a great salesperson, and he's almost like a car salesman in a way. He can convince you to give over your lunch money, you know, if you didn't have any. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Taxus? Who do you want to nominate?
Well, I'm going to say I don't necessarily would think of this person as a sidekick, more like an equal partner in our ventures. And I'm going to pick Sabine Wren. Yeah. Because, hey, you know what? It doesn't hurt to have a Mando to back up my loud mouth. Just saying. So, and plus, I might have a voting controlling interest, but she's probably going to have 60-40 as far as profits. Just going to throw that out there.
All right. Well, I like where everyone's head's at. I am also going the Rebels route, and I am taking Zeb.
That was almost my pick.
Nice.
Yeah, well, Sabine was my second one because for some reason, I thought you were going to pick Zeb. But the why? Well, one, you need muscle, you got muscle.
Yeah.
Two, the guy can get in and out of places because he can climb up walls and so he can get us in and out of some messes as well. Three, of all the people I was considering, he seemed like he'd probably be the most fun to sit back in the canteen and enjoy a cold one after the job was done.
Yeah.
Plus, Steve Bloom provides the voice, and it's fun to listen to him
awesome.
talk. So yeah, I'm going to go with Zeb. So I am going to try and get this poll up earlier, and so head on over to Twitter and our Twitter page at SQ Pod and look for that within the next day or two, and let us know what you think. And that will do it for this edition of Silence Fools. Well, we keep on trucking down the road to Solo. And before we go, do either of you have anything coming up for the Scoundrels to look forward to?
Well, for me, of course, you can always find my blogs on Coffee with Kenobi and my reviews for Core Worlds Couture. I was recently on an episode of Rebels Reactions with Aaron Harris and Mike McDonald. That was a lot of fun. And I also have another upcoming podcast appearance on Legends Library with Randy Therio discussing Wishful Drinking by Carrie Fisher here towards the end of March. So haven't decided on an exact date for that one yet, but so you can look for that one sometime soon.
Okay. Well, we will. And hey, if you liked earlier with the trivia thing and me and Scott Murray together, then you should like the Assembly of Geeks show, The Geek Supreme. And just to get a flavor of the other hosts, I was channeling Jeff McGee and Regina Davis. So that's what we do. It's a little fun little trivia / geek talk show. We try and mix it up a little bit. And, it's fun. Go check it out every Tuesday.
It is fun. I enjoyed the Black Panther coverage from your past episode here.
Okay.
Yeah. As usual, I have some recent comic reviews on RetroZap. The one I'm going to plug the most right now is Darth Vader number 12. And then I'll have Star Wars 44 coming out. Both of them are fantastic reads. They are firing on all cylinders with most of the comics coming out of Marvel right now. I'm also doing something fun leading up to Avengers Infinity War. I'm looking back at the old the Infinity Gauntlet series. My review for Infinity Gauntlet number 2 just came out this past week. I provide some detail and some of the more obscure characters in that one as well. So if you're kind of wondering a little bit more about who's who, check that one out. In addition to this, I've made my debut on Jedi Journals in the past week, and I was talking to Jay Shepard, you may know him as Jovial J from Twitter, about the one of the last comic book arcs for Dr. Aphra in her story in The Enormous Prophet. So there's that. Warp Trails has been a bit on a hiatus, but if you like Star Trek Discovery, go check that out. We are really busy, but we're trying to get into some other episodes from other series, from the other Star Trek series while we're on the break. Scoundrels, thank you for listening and for your support. If you've enjoyed the show, this has been Starships, Sabers, and Scoundrels, and we would love a review wherever you listen to your podcasts, especially iTunes, which is also known as Apple Podcasts. Remember, you can write a podcast review directly from Apple's podcast app now. It's easier than ever to leave us a review, especially a 5-star review. Yeah. On the other hand, if you didn't care for this, then yeah, the deal gets worse all the time, as Lando would say, but please don't rip our arms out of their sockets, as Chewbacca might be prone to do. With that in mind, we do appreciate it anytime you share our show posts on Twitter and Facebook. Please let others know you're listening by sharing the shows on social media. A special thanks to everyone that has taken the time to share our show with others. We really cannot express how helpful that is.
Absolutely. And speaking of social media, Starships, Sabers, and Scoundrels can be followed on Twitter and Instagram at @SCubedPod and liked on Facebook, where we are facebook.com/SCubedPod. If you want to follow Darth Taxus on Twitter, he is at Darth Taxus. Dennis is at DJKVER2, and I am at Joyce Krebs. You can reach us by email at scubedpod@retrozap.com. We would love to hear your thoughts on Chewbacca and Lando, but if you have anything else that's on your mind, Star Wars related or not, then let us know. Emails, really good tweets, and iTunes reviews end up in silence fools. Again, our email address is scubedpod@retrozap.com.
And hey, we're honored to be part of the retrozap.com podcast network. Did you know that RetroZap is home to 21 podcasts? That's one less than 22 and one more than 20. Please check out RetroZap for other great shows, including The Yardcast, Classic Marvel Comics, Green Justice, and The Sandcrawler. Also be sure to check out our Scoundrels t-shirts on TeePublic. Just go to teepublic.com/user/SQpod or just search for us on the site. Hey, if you get a large enough one, you can use it as a stylish cape a la Lando.
All right. Well, thanks to Aaron Lay for our show logos and to James Volpe, the Sky Geek, for our The Good, The Bad, and The Ugly show logo.
And here is our disclaimer. Starship, Sabers, and Scoundrels is not endorsed, affiliated with, or sponsored by Lucasfilm Limited and or Disney. This show is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. All characters, music, and sounds are the intellectual property of their respective copyright holders. All else is the intellectual property of Starship, Sabers, and Scoundrels unless otherwise indicated.
Yeah, all right, guys. Any final thoughts?
Uh-oh. I have another prophecy. Doom.
Oh no, what do you see? A natural disaster? An asteroid headed to Earth?
No, none of that. It's our next show.
Yeah. Well, that'll do it for episode 50, the golden episode of Starship, Sabers, and Scoundrels. As always, thanks for listening and joining us this week. Until next time, may the Force be with you.
That was dumb.
I didn't even say that.
Chewie, we're home.
I've got a lot of people that need death hugs.